Today we are talking about the right form factor for AI wearables and where Apple could get its AI revenge. Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief. Every few months, we get renewed chatter about AI native devices, AI wearables. Sometimes it's because of new product launches, other times it's because of rumors, but it's this fascinating discourse where people are debating what a category will look like that frankly isn't even really a category yet. It is just something that some companies are betting on. Today, we're going to look at the latest news, a bunch of which has come in the last week or so, get a sense of the state of play, and talk about why, after all of their flops, failures, and frankly just unimpressiveness in AI, Apple could secretly be sitting on the AI device Trojan horse. Let's start with the latest news from over the weekend, though. The short of it is the latest burst of reporting around the much ballyhooed and anticipated OpenAI device that represents a collaboration between Sam Altman and Johnny Ive. Now, it's been pretty clear that OpenAI and Altman are trying to capture some of the magic of the iMac, iPod, and iPhone era Apple team. Obviously, the hiring of the designer of many of those products, Johnny Ive, is integral to that. But the information also reports that the company has been hiring Apple engineers and contracting with iPhone manufacturing partners over recent months. The information writes that Luxshare, which is a major assembler of both iPhones and AirPods in China, has a contract to assemble at least one of OpenAI's devices. And sources say that OpenAI has also approached Gore-Tech, which assembles AirPods, HomePods, and Apple Watches. Sources say that the first release target is late next year or early 2027, and the reporting also included some confirmations and updates on the form factor the device would take. The information writes, one of the products OpenAI has talked to suppliers about making resembles a smart speaker without a display. Another source said that the company has also considered building glasses, a digital voice recorder, and a wearable pin. Now, the first part, the idea of it resembling a smart speaker without a display, seems in line with rumors from earlier this year that the device would be something like a pocket-sized puck. Back in May, the Wall Street Journal reported that the idea was to have a third core device a person would put on a desk after a laptop and an iPhone. They wrote that the product would be capable of being fully aware of a user's surroundings in life and would be unobtrusive. On the flip side, the reporting that OpenAI has considered a wearable pin is very much not in line with previous comments, where Johnny Ive has been quite negative about previous devices like the Rabbit and the Humane pin, saying, quote, there has been an absence of new ways of thinking expressed in products. Sam Altman also dashed the rumors that the first device would be smart glasses, perhaps recognizing that Meta has a big lead in that area. But all of this does line up with the reporting that they were considering not just a single device, but a family of devices. It may simply be that they're at the stage where they're just considering their options and understanding if-then sort of implications of if they were to develop a particular type of device, what the constraints would be. Overall, in 2025, OpenAI has now recorded more than 24 employees from Apple who previously worked on consumer hardware. That's up from about 10 last year and none in 2023. It's not all that surprising that they're able to be successful with this poaching. The information writes, some longtime Apple employees working on the company's hardware products have become bored with the incremental changes in the type of products they're working on and frustrated with the bureaucracy at Apple. It hasn't helped that employees have seen their income suffer due to Apple's lackluster stock over the past year. Unsurprisingly, they also write, Ive's involvement with OpenAI, too, has enhanced the company's credibility in the eyes of its recruits from Apple. So the takeaways for those keeping track at home. 1. OpenAI recruitment of Apple hardware folks is increasing. Planning for the supply chain for this device or devices is happening. From a timeline perspective, we're looking at somewhere between 12 and 18 months, call it, and the form factor remains up in the air. Now, presumably, one of the reasons that we're hearing more about OpenAI's device right now is the buzz around Meta's next generation of smart glasses that were announced last week. So far, the tech press has seemed to have fairly universally positive experiences. The glasses now feature a tiny built-in screen that's invisible to the outside world, and Meta also seems to have figured out how to do gesture controls with a haptic wristband. Lance Ulanoff of TechRadar commented that the new version of the Ray-Bans feel like they succeeded in every way that Google Glasses failed. They look less conspicuous, they're more comfortable to wear, and they have a much more significant battery life. The device is also not months and months out. They will, according to Mark Zuckerberg, be available within a few weeks, and at a price point of $799, they're expensive, but nowhere near the, for example, $3,500 for the Apple Vision Pro. The fact that these Ray-Bans are succeeding in the ways that Google Glass failed is obviously very intentional. It's quite clear that Zuckerberg is making his big bet over the form factor for AI devices. At last week's announcement, he said, glasses are the ideal form factor for personal superintelligence because they let you stay present in the moment while getting access to all of these AI capabilities to make you smarter, help you communicate better, improve your memory, improve your senses. And this is the sort of grandiose language that the people behind these devices are using. Sam Altman has made similar proclamations about his device. During the swirling news cycle following their announcement back in May, he said, "Just the way we think of our current computers were designed for a world without AI. And now we're in a different world, and what you want out of hardware and software is changing quite rapidly." And if Altman's device really is some version of this little puck that you either keep in your pocket or wear as a necklace or something else, there is an interesting difference in the bet about what the future of AI devices is built for. Altman, from the little we know, appears to be betting on a vision of ambient AI. In other words, a series of devices all talking to each other and maintaining context that can create the feeling of an omnipresent AI assistant. Zuckerberg's bet, meanwhile, is still very much rooted in the idea of a device acting as a portal to use AI. The glasses can serve as a comfortable way to access your AI, but they're still fundamentally a device that you turn on and use and control, rather than an AI enhancement to your surroundings. So far, the ambient AI vision has been a little stuck on go. One of the more prominent devices to get previewed in recent months is a product called Friend. The device is a pendant offering that had some similar features to earlier AI wearables. It records conversations, can help users keep track of their day and keep a diary of events, and provide observations throughout or once the day is done. A series of fairly dismal reviews were published earlier this month, epitomized by the Wired headline, "I hate my AI friend." Now, what was interesting about this is that whereas with previous generations of AI wearables, the big complaint was that the devices fundamentally didn't work and really didn't do anything, this time around, the complaints were around, one, how people reacted to the pin and the general hostility that they found, and two, the fact that they simply didn't like its personality. In fact, engineer Ali Bell commented at the time, "Extraordinary leap forward that we can critique a wearable's personality and not just its usable hardware." Still, there are some early positive reviews of the Friend as well. Robert Scoble writes, "Now that I have used a few of the always listening devices like Avi Schiffman's Friend, it makes me want a display and a camera so I can show the AI things, a display so it can show me things, but they are cool. They just leave me wanting a lot more, like a virtual being on my screen." Now, addressing this multimodal capability is obviously a clear goal for Meta. For example, during last week's event, Mark Zuckerberg said, "Glasses are the only form factor where you can let AI see what you see, hear what you hear, talk to you throughout the day, and very soon generate whatever AI you need right in your vision in real time." The question is, if the use cases that people are looking for involve explicitly deciding to call up and use the AI rather than it being on all the time, is the perfect AI device already sitting in every pocket in the world? Right now, a huge percentage of people access AI using their smartphone, and it's not necessarily all that inconvenient. Now, some of the knocks on a smartphone are that they don't offer enough bandwidth. In other words, typing and reading responses is too slow, although presumably that could be solved with better voice mode. For Zuckerberg and Altman, another issue with the phone, though, is a matter of screen use and the way that it potentially disconnects people. A big philosophy that both of those two seem to share these days is about getting people to look up from their phone and connect with others around them. Certainly so far, it looks like Google's big AI device bet is the smartphone. The recent release of the Pixel 10 was all about AI, even though some of the AI features weren't labeled as such. The chipset for the phone was specifically chosen to give better AI performance at the cost of a better CPU. And while this might not be the generation to do it, you get the sense that Google wants the smartphone to become an AI-enhanced experience in every way. What's more, now that people have gotten their hands on the iPhone 17, it seems like Apple is making a similar bet. Apple lacks the advanced software models that Google has, but the hardware is no joke. Match.com developer Adrian Grondlin posted a video of what he's been tinkering with, writing, "Here's Apple's foundation model running on iPhone 17 Pro. It's just so fast." Apple was not joking. The A19 Pro chip is really good for running LLMs on device. And yet, if one was looking at the recent Apple event, for their real Trojan horse for AI devices, I think that it was not, in fact, the iPhone, but instead another device that got a new version announced. Maybe the most shared part of the entire presentation was the announcement of real-time translation via the AirPods 3. Basically, the idea is that the AirPods 3 will listen to the language that's being spoken around you, translate it live into your ear, and if you have your iPhone, translate what your response is back into the language that someone can read. At no point in this announcement did they talk about the AI or Apple intelligence that was used to do this translation. They just focused on the use case. That got a lot of people thinking that maybe when it comes to applied AI, the AirPods 3 are actually where it's at. Signal tweeted, "It should be super clear to everyone that AirPods are the ultimate AI Trojan horse. Always on, socially acceptable, and frictionless. Everyone's carrying a microphone, speaker, and compute adjacency in their ears right now. The AI hardware race is not really about big headsets, glasses, or humanoid robots now. It's about what you can put between someone's nervous system and the cloud without them noticing. That's AirPods. This is the ultimate ambient cognition opportunity, and it's Apple's to lose. Scoble agrees, writing, "Yeah, the ultimate always-on wearable. Much better than any other I've seen, and I have a bunch. The others require you to put something around your neck, signaling to others you are different. Most people don't like that. Headphones have been normalized in society for years." So who is making the right bet here? Well, first of all, I tend to think that our question about form factor might actually be slightly orthogonal to the question we should be actually asking, which is about use cases. In other words, the problem so far with the dedicated AI wearable devices hasn't just been that they are obnoxious and cause you social ostracization. It's that the things that they enable aren't valuable enough to justify all of that. In other words, people might deal with the stares and stigma of the friend pendant if it did something more for them than just try to summarize their day and talk to them like a robot friend. One of my, I guess, slightly contrarian takes, although this may be a generational thing, is that I think that the reports of people being disconnected in social experiences by having to look at their phone are wildly overstated. Every time an entrepreneur says something like that, it feels to me like they're trying to sell a different vision for interaction because they have a device that better fits that vision of interaction. This is not to say that the mobile phone hasn't caused serious societal disruption. I think we are living through the fallout of the first generation of that in a profound and painful way. But I don't think that the primary issue is that when we're together in person, it's awful and burdensome to have to take out a thing to snap a photo. I see people complain all the time about folks at concerts or other live events just viewing everything through their screen. But maybe for those people, the value of the experience when they get to look back on it through the video they captured at the event is more rich and powerful for them than if they had just been quote unquote present without their phone the whole time. The point is, I think that a lot of the early stages of AI device exploration are inevitably going to be solutions in search of problems. That doesn't mean that companies shouldn't do it. I don't think we know yet what type of interactions are going to become normal in the future. The only way we're going to find out is by people trying things, and some of them unexpectedly working. Still, in the near term, I think that it is far more likely that AI-enabled experiences come to the devices we are already using and which are already socially acceptable versus them showing up and getting normalized on an entirely new type of device. Broadly speaking, on the dividing line between ambient, always-on AI versus AI you have to switch on when you want, I tend to think that for some meaningful period of time, we're going to be in a mode where most people want to switch on the AI when they want to switch on the AI. To the extent that there are ambient AI use cases that become really valuable, I'm very much in the camp that earbuds and the form factors that we already use are likely to be a better starting point than something new. When push comes to shove, everything comes back to utility in some way, shape, or form. A thing's got to be super useful or it's got to be super fun. Otherwise, what are we doing here? And so until devices solve for that, I think the pile of good try but try agains is just going to get bigger. Let me know what you think in the comments. For now, that is going to do it for today's AI Daily Brief. Appreciate you listening as always, and until next time, be safe and take care of each other. Peace.